Hello everyone, this is Ryan, and in this lesson I'll be showing you how to work with font-weight, font-style, and also use the font shorthand. So I've got the same HTML open as I had in the previous video. I've got a heading and a sentence with some strong text and some emphasis text. And now I'm linking to a different style sheet, font-weight.css, which is currently empty. And if I do a live preview in my browser, you'll see that I just have a heading and a paragraph, no CSS. So let's first have a look at W3 schools. And then go to the CSS reference. Look under fonts. And you'll notice most of them begin with the word font. So font-family we've looked at already. Font-size we've looked at already. So now we're going to be looking at font-weight, font-style, and we'll be also looking at the shorthand, which is just the word font by itself. So if we start with font-weight, usually we use normal or bold, but you can also use a number between 100 and 900, going up in intervals of 100. So a normal font would be the equivalent of a 400, and a bold font would be the equivalent of a 700. So think of the weight of a font as how dark the font is. Okay, so let's do a couple of experiments with the coding. Let's make a paragraph style. Font weight. I'll first set it just to bold, which is the equivalent of a 700. You'll see the entire sentence is in bold. Note the headings automatically in bold, so you could, if you wanted to, switch off the bold on the heading by just setting it to normal. So you'll notice it's now normal. Let's try a couple of numbers now. So 100 would be the lightest font. 200 is a bit darker. 300 is a bit darker. 400 is the equivalent of normal font. 500 a bit darker. 600 a bit darker. 700 equivalent of bold. 800 darker. And 900 the darkest. So you could use a number if you wanted to. Most of the time I'll end up using normal or bold. Okay, next up is font-style. And typically you could set it to italic, normal, or oblique. I'm going to go with italic. And you'll notice the headings now in italic. Oblique is almost identical to italic, but doesn't work in all the browsers, so we tend to focus on either normal or italic. And then we also have a shorthand for font. If we go back to W3 schools and we look at the font shorthand, here's an example of the font shorthand. At a bare minimum, you need to have the size, the font size, followed by the font family. Optionally, you may also add the italic and the bold. In other words, the font style and the font weight, but these are optional. What is compulsory is the size and the family. So let's give this a try. So I'm going to say font : set the size to 20 pixels and the family to Arial. So you'll see that once I've finished typing the family, the size also kicked in. And then optionally we can add the bold and italic in front of that. That's the font weight, and then the font style. But most of the time we just add the font size followed by the font family. If you're adding multiple families, you just comma separate them. So if you don't have Arial on your machine, it will then use Verdana instead. So that brings us to the end of looking at font style, font weight, and this font shorthand.